We were talking about the energy of the beam and the focusing of the beam. So when the beam is there, then it has the maximum intensity, and you constantly spread the beam so that the intense part is not damaging the screen. In some cases, the sample is very unstable. For example, you have lithium in your sample, and lithium is a very light atomic weight material, right? And that lithium is volatile, for example. It is evolving from the material under the beam. Then what do? You focus the electron microscope perfectly, and for very short interval, you bring the sample in front of the beam so that it is not damaged. Because there are materials which can't withstand the electron beam at 40 degrees centigrade, or if the beam heats the material up to that temperature, then that material will not be stable under the beam. And what you have seen in the properties, that material is no more there. It has been damaged, right? So for that case, you focus the beam perfectly and then take the sample suddenly in and take image in a couple of seconds and then remove it from the beam so that the sample is not damaged because of the heat of the beam. There are many ways which will come in our discussions, but let's move forward and go to the stigmatism. That in geometric optics, stigmatism refers to the image formation property of an optical system which focuses a single point source in the object space into a single point in the image space. If this is the finger in the object plane, and here I see two fingers in the image plane, this means that the astigmatism is there. The lenses are not stigmated. The stigmatism has not been corrected. Astigmatism has not been corrected. Stigmatic means stigma. Stigmatism is from stigma. Stigma means spot. Bad stigma on his character. Bad spot on his character. So this is from that if a spot is giving a point in the image plane, is a point, a spot, or an object is giving you the same thing in the image plane, then this means that the lenses are stigmatic. And if it is not happening, then astigmatism is there, and that should be removed. And there are ways. So the holy, not holy, remember this, because I frequently see student mistakes in spellings which completely change the meaning. Holy means spark, and this holy means porous, right? So it is not holy. So take care of these minor spelling. Form war is used to critically adjust the stigmatism of a TM. When the beam is under or over focused on the specimen, a Fresnel fringe becomes visible due to the effects of diffraction around the edges of the hole. Whenever we focus the microscope, usually we go to a very sharp edge crystals. When the edges are sharp, then you can easily distinguish between defocused and focused, under focus, over focus, and focused. When the edge is very sharp. If there are no such sharp edge crystals, because if the edge is soft, it is not sharp, it is uniform type, then it is very difficult to distinguish whether it is focused or not focused. But if it is sharp, then the sharp edge becomes very visible when it is in focus. But if it is not there, then you select a hole in the sample, and the edges of the hole are seen at higher magnification, higher, bigger, larger. Always note these words. When you are talking of energy, you say higher energy. When you are talking of magnification, higher magnification. When you are talking of sizes, then say larger or smaller. Smaller energy is not a good word in technical writing and technical disciplines, right? Heavier, lighter. So look into different words whenever you write things and select the ones which best fit there. And that raises the standard of your writing, right? So go to a higher magnification, and when there is a little bit variation at the edge of the pore at higher magnification, you see it very clearly. When you go, if it is zero point 0.1 angstrom variation at the edge, and you take it to 100 times more magnification, that zero point 0.1 becomes 10 angstrom. So when you go to higher magnification, you clearly see that it should not be there, and you then change the focusing. The focusing are fine focusing and rough focusing. So when you are far away from the focusing, then you use rough focusing now. And when you are near there, for example, you are dealing with angstrom, then the fine focusing is used. And when you see that these fringes, these are called Fresnel fringes, which are occurring because of the diffracted beams at the edge, and they are evenly distributed. There is no small and short and large distances, but evenly distributed, equally distributed. Then you say these are astigmatism has been corrected and it is stigmated, right? So these are the form war is the common way of correcting the astigmatism of the device.
So it is a medium form.
Form war, it's actually the grid, the copper grid. You have a ring and it is netted, where you can see things that they are equidistant. Sieve type thing is made, yeah, from that thing, and you look into that. But if you pour in the sample, in any sample, you can correct it there. You are not putting always the formoir there, because taking out and putting sample in some machine, it needs 4 to 5 hours, right? You start the machine in the morning, early in the morning, slowly and steadily you raise the voltage up to there, then you focus the whole machine according to your requirements. If your sample is magnetic, then it should be focused with the magnetic sample in, and that in means that you are focusing the beam through the pores or holes of that magnetic sample. Because if you focus it on one side or the other side and you bring the magnetic sample in, then your focus is disturbed, because the magnetic field automatically changes the electron path, right? So it is not focused. But usually when you focus it properly, then You have put your sample in and then you start working. If you put the sample back, take out or put, then you must be very careful. Although the sample vacuum system is different from the column of the microscope, but still you have to take the sample into the column. So what they do, for example, it is a huge column of the machine and the sample chamber is, for example, of this size. Then you disconnect the machine from the chamber. You disconnect the machine from that sample chamber. Then you put the sample in here. And you can't put it like that you push the sample in. No. When you put the sample in to a certain level, the vacuum completely disrupts. And you keep the sample there at fixed position. And when the vacuum recovers itself, it gives you a green light that now you can take the sample in. And when you take the sample in, then this means that the vacuum of this small chamber has been equated to the vacuum of the column. When the vacuum is equal, then it makes no difference. Although a lot of noise comes from there that something new has come into the column. But you shouldn't be scared of that. If the vacuum is not consistent with that of the column, then the machine will switch off automatically. And you will have to start from the beginning again. Right? So the focusing is usually done with your sample. People don't use for more time and again. But those who are responsible for the maintenance of the machine, they have these standards to keep the machine in proper order and correct stigmatism and different things like that with these sort of. For magnification calibration, I have told in the previous lectures that they use gold thin film because the interatomic spacings of the cubic gold crystals are known, and from there you can measure that F, the interplanar spacing associated with the 100 or 5 angstrom. Then you take an image of the gold film and take the diffraction pattern so that you are sure that it is the 100 direction. Then you measure it in the image. If it is 2 centimeter in the image, then your 2 centimeter in image corresponds to 5 angstrom in the actual sample. And through that way, you say 2 centimeter is equivalent to 5 angstrom. And that is the magnification. And I have discussed in detail the calibration of the diffraction pattern, the camera length, which is available in my previous lectures. Now look into this. This slide shows a very simple system that it is the magnetic field, and in and out, and all RTM functions such as gun and beam alignment were accomplished by physically moving the components. Right? You used to be physically moving things so that the focusing and the alignment of the machine is done. Today, they are achieved using electromagnetic deflection coils that are positioned throughout the column. So physically you have these, and you would have to change them so that you get the beam in proper place. And people are, electron microscopists are constantly working on things, and they are changing the shapes, the requirements and the functioning of these machines according to their requirement. When I was studying, there was a machine in that lab, and we used to use it for imaging and diffraction pattern. But after a few years, when I went there, they had made a laboratory from that machine. A laboratory for that machine in a sense that if you want to measure the conductivity of a few nanometer long wire, which is a nanometer or two thick, how can you hold it? How can you grip it between electrodes? Because you can't see it. So what they do, they pass that wire onto the computer microscope screen, and they have hands within that which are controlled from outside, and that are connected with the electrodes. And when you go to high magnification, you see that wire and you grip it between the two handles, the grips, and you measure the conductivity of that wire, and you measure the length and thickness of that wire as well within the machine. So the machine is working like a laboratory within it, right? So the process is continuously going on because the microscope is not just to look into strange things. The purpose of the microscope is not to look into strange things. The purpose of the microscope is to engineer materials for specific applications. And if you can't do that, if you can't measure the conductivity of a nanowire, then how can you utilize that? So people are struggling and changing the previous setups into modern ones so that they have more access to the samples. Now, this shows that the blue line is the optical axis, right? In both cases. Shift, these shifts, and when you see these shifts, these are actually the coils, the electromagnetic field providers within the machine, but these are in the form of knobs on the panel of the microscope. So you are playing with those knobs and you are shifting the beam, the sample, the diffraction pattern. You want it here, you want it here. So you move around the screen, the pattern or the image. Similarly, you are moving around the gun, you are moving around the lenses from one place to another where it gives you the optimum focus. So you are dealing with the knobs, and here they are basically the electromagnetic coils which are producing the field, and you are changing the field strength or directions, and you focus the beam according to your requirement. And here that is taken, alpha is up to that, so it comes like that in the condenser aperture, deviates it in this direction. There you are bringing it across. So it is the strength of the field, the strength of the field through which you decide that the crossover should be here or there. Right? So because you have the image plane, you have the back focal plane. When you bring the focus to the back focal plane, you get the diffraction pattern. And when you focus everything onto the image screen, then you get the image of the material. So these fields enable you to direct, to escort the electron beams onto the sample and then onto the diffraction or the image plane. So it is something like that. And a similar thing is like this. We call these centering spots pivot points. And as the beam is shifted or tilted back and forth, there should be no apparent moment if the microscope is properly aligned. If I shift the sample and it is going away from my control, it changes. This means that my machine is not aligned. But if I move it like this and it behaves as I want, it is not, any focus is not lost. When you move the goniometer and the sample is moving like this, so it is moving like this when I move the goniometer, right? If it is moving like this, it is correct. But when I move it like this and it shifts, move like this and it shifts, this means there is some problem in alignment. So when I focus everything, then I move the goniometer up. The goniometer is basically, this is the sample holder, and here outside you have the goniometer. And when you move the goniometer, you are actually doing this with the sample. And if this tilting of the sample doesn't change the position, but it is tilting at the same position, then we say that you have achieved the eucentric height of the sample.